It was September 14th, 1985, 8:45 a.m. in the heart of downtown Chicago. The streets buzzed with the usual chaos. Horns blaring from yellow cabs, the metallic screech of the L train overhead, and the faint aroma of fresh coffee mixing with exhaust fumes. At First Windy City Bank, the tallest financial fortress in the Loop, employees filed in under the watchful eye of security guard Robert Hayes. Hayes, a 42-year-old former Army mechanic with a limp from an old knee injury, nodded to his colleagues as he adjusted his uniform belt, the leather creaking softly against his frame. Hayes had worked there for 12 years, a steady job that paid the bills but barely covered his mounting medical debts for his wife's cancer treatments. "Morning, Bob," called out Teller Maria Gonzalez from behind the bulletproof glass. He grunted a reply, his mind elsewhere, on the stack of unpaid bills at home and the whispers of a desperate plan forming in his head. Archive. Employee ID photo. A grainy black and white snapshot shows Hayes in uniform, his face stern but eyes weary, stamped with the bank's logo and dated 1973. By 10:27 a.m., the bank's vault hummed with activity. Armored trucks had just delivered $4.2 million in fresh bills, destined for distribution to branches across Illinois. The air down there was cool and metallic, laced with the faint scent of ink on paper. Manager Edward Klein, a meticulous 55-year-old with wire-rimmed glasses, oversaw the count. "Double-check those stacks, folks," he barked, his voice echoing off the reinforced concrete walls. Hayes lingered nearby, ostensibly on patrol, but his gaze fixed on the open vault door. He knew the schedule inside out, the deliveries, the weak points in security. That morning, he made a discreet call from a payphone outside. "It's set for noon," he whispered into the receiver, his breath fogging the glass booth. The line clicked dead without a response. Transcript. Phone recording excerpt from a later discovered dictaphone tape in Hayes' locker. "Yeah, the bird's ready. Land on the roof. Grab and go. No loose ends." A pause, then static. At exactly 11:58 a.m., the first rumbles echoed through the skyscrapers. Pedestrians on Michigan Avenue looked up as a UH-1 Huey helicopter, olive drab, with faded Army markings, descended like a mechanical predator. The rotor wash sent newspapers swirling and hats flying. "What the hell is that?" shouted a hot dog vendor, shielding his eyes from the dust. The chopper hovered precariously over the bank's flat roof, its skids scraping the gravel. Two figures in black jumpsuits and ski masks rappelled down, tools in hand. They breached the roof access door with a muffled explosion, thermite charges melting the lock in seconds. Alarms blared inside the bank, red lights flashing as employees dove under desks. Hayes, stationed on the upper floors, moved with purpose. He disabled the secondary alarm panel with a quick splice of wires, his hands steady despite the adrenaline. "Everyone stay calm," he announced over the intercom, his voice calm but laced with feigned urgency. Down in the vault, Klein froze as the intruders burst in, submachine guns drawn. On the floor. "Now," one barked, his accent neutral, almost rehearsed. The heist unfolded in under 5 minutes, a blur of efficiency. The intruders loaded duffel bags with bundled cash, the paper rustling like dry leaves. Klein watched helplessly, his heart pounding. "Please, don't hurt anyone," he pleaded. One thief paused, tilting his head. "We're not here for blood, just the green." Up top, the helicopter's engine whined, straining under the weight. Hayes slipped away from the chaos, joining the rooftop via a service stairwell. He climbed aboard as the bags were hoisted up, the chopper lifting off with a thunderous roar. Sirens wailed below as police cruisers screeched to a halt, officers spilling out with weapons drawn. Eyewitnesses later described the scene, the Huey banking sharply over Lake Michigan, disappearing into the haze. "It was like something out of a movie," one pedestrian told reporters, the wind still whipping her hair. Archive. News clipping. A faded Chicago Tribune headline reads, "Daring helicopter heist hits First Windy City Bank. Millions vanish in broad daylight." Accompanied by a blurry photo of the chopper mid-flight, captured by an amateur photographer. By 12:15 p.m., The bank was a crime scene. FBI agent Thomas Riley, a grizzled 58-year-old veteran with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, arrived first. His younger partner, Agent Lisa Chun, 32 and fresh from Quantico, scanned the roof with wide eyes. "This isn't your average smash and grab," she noted, kicking at the charred door remnants. "Military-grade hardware. Who has access to a Huey?" Riley nodded, lighting a cigarette despite the no-smoking signs. "Start with the employees." Someone had inside knowledge. Interviews began in a makeshift tent outside. Hayes, looking shaken, recounted his heroic attempt to reach the roof. "I heard the blast and ran up, but they were already gone," he said, his voice steady. Klein corroborated, praising Hayes' quick thinking. The official narrative coalesced quickly. A professional crew, possibly ex-military, had pulled off the impossible. No casualties, but the loss stung. Insurance claims would skyrocket, and public trust in the bank plummeted. Transcript, press conference excerpt from archival footage. Police Chief Harlan Brooks at the podium, 2:30 p.m. "We believe this was an external operation. The helicopter was stolen from a nearby National Guard base. Rest assured, we're pursuing every lead." Word spread like wildfire through Chicago's neighborhoods. In Hayes' modest bungalow in Englewood, his wife, Sarah, clutched the phone as neighbors buzzed. "Bob's okay, thank God," she told her sister over the line, her voice trembling from chemo fatigue. The community rallied. Fundraisers for the bank staff, vigils downtown. But whispers grew. How did they know the vault schedule? Was it an inside job? Local media feasted on the story. Chicago's Sky Pirate Strike, blared one tabloid. Riley and Chun pored over evidence in a dimly lit precinct room, the air thick with coffee and cigarette smoke. "Check the guard base logs," Riley grunted. Chun nodded, her fingers flying over a teletype machine. A preliminary report came back. The Huey had been reported missing that morning, but no forced entry. Imagine being Klein, replaying the intruders' faces in your mind, wondering if you'd seen them before. The city held its breath, fearing copycats. 3 days later, September 17th, 1985, 7:12 a.m., divers pulled the Huey from the murky depths of Lake Michigan, 5 miles offshore. No bodies, no cash, just empty fuel tanks and a discarded jumpsuit. They ditched it and escaped by boat, Riley theorized, examining the wreckage under floodlights. Chun spotted something, a partial fingerprint on the control stick, smudged but viable. Lab results trickled in. The print didn't match any known criminals, but it raised questions. Why leave evidence? Chun mused. Riley shrugged. Arrogance or setup? The media spun it as a dead end. Hayes, back at work on light duty, overheard colleagues gossiping. "Heard the feds are looking at military vets," one whispered. Hayes smiled faintly, but his palms sweated. Hayes' life unraveled subtly. At home, Sarah noticed his restlessness. "You haven't slept since," she said one evening, September 20th, over a meager dinner of canned soup. The kitchen smelled of burnt toast. "It's just the shock," he replied, avoiding her gaze. But in his garage, hidden under tarps, sat a duffel with $50,000. His cut, or so he thought. A neighbor, old Mrs. Ellis, recalled seeing a strange van parked nearby the night before the heist. "Told the cops, but they brushed it off," she later confided to a reporter. Archive. Witness statement from police protocol, page 8. Van was dark blue, no plates visible. Heard muffled voices around midnight. October 2nd, 1985, 3:45 p.m. Chun, digging through bank records, found an anomaly. A maintenance log sign by Hayes for roof access the week prior. He said he was checking HVAC, she told Riley, spreading papers across a cluttered desk. Riley's eyes narrowed. Coincidence? They brought Hayes in for questioning. The room was stark, fluorescent lights buzzing. "Just routine," Riley assured. Hayes shifted uncomfortably. "I fix what needs fixing," he said. But Chun pressed. "Ever flown a chopper, Mr. Hayes? Army records say you trained on Hueys." Hayes paused, then laughed it off. "That was years ago. Bad knee now." They let him go, lacking proof. But doubt lingered. The community fractured. Some hailed Hayes as a hero. Others eyed him suspiciously. Sarah's health worsened, adding to his guilt. By November 1985, the case cooled. The FBI declared it an unsolved external heist, attributing it to a shadowy syndicate. Leads exhausted, Brooks announced at a presser. Insurance paid out. The bank rebuilt its roof with reinforced steel. But Riley wasn't convinced. Something's off, he confided to Chun over whiskey at a dive bar, the jukebox playing faint blues. Hayes knows more. Imagine the weight on Hayes. Millions gone, but his share buried, untouchable. The city moved on, but scars remained. Years passed, the heist fading into urban legend. Then, in 1992, during a routine estate sale in suburban Oak Park, a box of old photos surfaced. Among them, a faded Polaroid showing Hayes shaking hands with a man in military fatigues, dated 1984. On the back, scrawled in pencil, "Bird deal sealed. Dollar split 60/40ths. The buyer, an amateur historian, turned it over to authorities. Chun, now lead on cold cases, stared at the image. "This changes everything," she whispered. But who was the man in fatigues? And what else was hidden? It was April 3rd, 1992, 9:15 a.m., when the Polaroid from the Oak Park estate sale landed on Agent Lisa Chen's desk at the FBI's Chicago field office. The air smelled of stale coffee and photocopier toner. Chun, now 39 and a seasoned cold case investigator, studied the faded image. Robert Hayes, younger and fitter, shaking hand with a man in military fatigues. The penciled note on the back, "Bird deal sealed. Dollar split 60/40ths, sent a chill down her spine. "This isn't a coincidence," she muttered, pinning the photo to a cluttered corkboard. Her former partner, Thomas Riley, had retired 2 years prior, his health eroded by years of cigarettes and stress. Chun worked alone now, driven by a nagging sense of unfinished business. She requested the original heist files, a stack of yellowed reports and grainy VHS tapes. The Polaroid was the first real lead in 7 years. "Who's this guy?" she asked aloud, tapping the mystery man's face. Archive. FBI memo, dated April 4th, 1992. Photo evidence suggests possible insider involvement in 1985 First Windy City Bank heist. Cross-reference military records for unidentified male, approximate 30 to 40 years old, 1984 to 1985. Chun started with Hayes. He'd left the bank in 1987, citing personal reasons, and now lived quietly in a South Side apartment, his wife Sarah having passed away in 1989. On April 10th, 1992, 2:30 p.m., Chun knocked on his door, the hallway reeking of mildew and fried onions. Hayes, now 49, opened it, his limp more pronounced, his face etched with lines. "Agent Chun," he said, unsurprised. "Thought you'd forgotten me." Inside, the apartment was sparse, faded curtains, a single couch, a radio playing soft jazz. "Just tying up loose ends," Chun said, setting the Polaroid on the coffee table. Hayes' eyes flickered, but he shrugged. "Old army buddy, probably. Don't recall the photo." His voice was steady, but his fingers drummed the armrest. Chun didn't push. She left, but not before slipping a tracker on Hayes' beat-up Ford Taurus parked outside. "If he's nervous, he'll move," she noted in her log. By April 20th, 1992, Chen's team identified the man in the Polaroid. Vincent Carver, a former Army pilot discharged in 1983 for conduct unbecoming. Records showed he'd flown Hueys in Vietnam, same as Hayes. Carver had vanished after 1985, no tax filings or known address. But a tip from a retired National Guard officer pointed Chun to a dive bar in Gary, Indiana, where Carver was rumored to hang out. On April 25th, 11:45 p.m., Chun entered the bar, the air thick with cigarette smoke and the clink of glasses. A man matching Carver's description, mid-40s, grizzled, with a scar above his left eyebrow, sat alone, nursing a whiskey. "Vincent Carver?" Chun asked, flashing her badge. He smirked. "Haven't heard that name in a while." Transcript. Recorded interview from Chen's hidden dictaphone, April 25th, 1992. "Carver, you're barking up the wrong tree. Lady, I fly crop dusters now, not bank jobs. Chun then explained this photo with Hayes. And the bird deal. Carver. Pause. People make plans. Plans fall apart. Carver stonewalled, but his hesitation was telling. Chun left with a new lead. Carver mentioned a third guy who handled the cash. Who was he? Back in Chicago, the Polaroid reignited public interest. Local news ran segments titled, Heist Mystery Reopened. Residents of Englewood, Hayes' old neighborhood, gossiped at corner stores and churches. Bob was always quiet, but good, said Mrs. Ellis, the neighbor who'd reported the van in '85. Hard to believe he'd do something like that. Sarah's sister, Clara, now 52, contacted Chun. Over tea at a Lakeview cafe on May 2nd, 1992, 10 a.m., Clara shared a memory. Sarah said Bob was different before she died. Kept talking about fixing things for us. Her hands trembled, clutching a napkin. I found a key in her jewelry box after she passed. Thought it was nothing. She handed Chun a small brass key, engraved with Locker 47. Imagine Clara's weight, her sister gone, now questioning the man she trusted. The community felt it too, torn between loyalty and suspicion. On May 5th, 1992, 8:20 a.m., Chun traced the key to a storage facility in Cicero. Locker 47 held a dusty duffel bag, $50,000 in faded bills, a burner phone, and a handwritten note. V. Meet at Pier, September 15th, 85, 1 a.m. Burn this. The bills matched the serial numbers from the heist. Chin's pulse raced. Hayes kept his cut. She whispered to her new partner, Agent Marcus Tate, a 28-year-old tech enthusiast. Tate ran the burner phone's records through a new database. A single call, made September 14th, 1985, 11 p.m., pinged a tower near Navy Pier. The night of the heist, Tate said, eyes wide. They plan a rendezvous. Chun re-interviewed Hayes on May 7th, 3:15 p.m., in the same stark FBI room. Locker 47, Robert, she said, sliding the key across the table. His face paled. I don't know anything about that, he stammered. But his hands shook, betraying him. Archive. Evidence log dated May 5th, 1992. Contents of Locker 47. $50,000 in cash. Burner phone. Handwritten note. Serial numbers match stolen funds from 1985 heist. Chen's focus shifted to the third guy. Tate dug into Carver's old military contacts, uncovering a name. Daniel Walsh, a former logistics officer turned private contractor. Walsh, 46, owned a small shipping company in Milwaukee. On May 12, 1992, 7:30 a.m., Chun and Tate drove to his office, a nondescript warehouse by Lake Michigan, the air heavy with diesel and fish. Walsh was polished, his suit crisp despite the setting. Agents, I'm a businessman, not a thief, he said, leaning back in his chair. But Tate spotted a tell. A vintage army watch on Walsh's wrist, identical to one described in a 1985 witness report from the heist. Nice watch, Tate said pointedly. Walsh's smile faltered. A breakthrough came on May 20th, 1992, 4:10 p.m. Tate traced Walsh's company financials, finding irregular deposits in 1985, $1.8 million funneled through shell accounts. He laundered the cash, Tate said, highlighting bank statements. Chun cross-referenced. The accounts linked to a now-defunct Chicago trucking firm, where Hayes had briefly worked post-Army. Confronted on May 22nd, Walsh cracked. In a recorded confession, he admitted coordinating the heist logistics, securing the boat for the lake escape, bribing a guard official for the Huey. Hayes was desperate, Walsh said. His wife was dying. He reached out to Carver, who knew me from Nam. It was just business. Transcript. Walsh confession excerpt. May 22nd, 1992. Walsh, Bob got 50 grand. Carver and I split the rest. We ditched the chopper, took a boat to Wisconsin. No one was supposed to get hurt. Chun, where's the rest of the money? Walsh, size gone. Investments, debts. Life. Hayes was arrested on June 1st, 1992, 6 a.m., his apartment surrounded by SWAT. He didn't resist. His shoulders slumped as cuffs clicked. At trial, He pleaded guilty, his voice breaking as he spoke of Sarah. "I wanted to save her," he said, tears falling. "I'd do anything for her." The courtroom was silent, jurors visibly moved. Carver was apprehended in Indiana, but much of the money was unrecoverable, lost to offshore accounts. Walsh cut a deal, testifying for a reduced sentence. The bank, now under new management, issued a statement. "We've strengthened security. This can't happen again." Chicago changed after the trial. The heist became a cautionary tale, spurring tighter bank regulations and National Guard oversight. Clara, Sarah's sister, started a charity in Sarah's name, funding cancer care for low-income families. "It's what she'd want," Clara said at a 1993 fundraiser, her voice steady but eyes wet. Chun, promoted to lead investigator, kept the Polaroid on her desk as a reminder. Even small clues can crack a case wide open. Hayes served his sentence quietly, paroled in 2000, a shadow of the man he'd been. Imagine standing on Navy Pier, looking out at Lake Michigan, wondering what secrets still lie beneath its waves. Was justice served? Or was Hayes just a desperate man pushed too far? What do you think? Was this outcome fair? Share your thoughts in the comments. The Chicago skyline glittered under the autumn sun of September 14, 2000, exactly 15 years after the first Windy City Bank heist shook the city. The loop had changed. New skyscrapers towered, and the once vulnerable bank now boasted cutting-edge security, its roof reinforced with steel and monitored by cameras. Yet, for those touched by the 1985 heist, the scars lingered like the faint ripples on Lake Michigan's surface. Robert Hayes, now 57, walked free from prison that morning, his parole papers tucked into a worn jacket. The Englewood neighborhood he returned to felt foreign. Corner stores replaced by chain pharmacies, his old bungalow long sold to cover debts. Standing on his former street, the air sharp with the scent of fallen leaves, he stared at the spot where he'd once hidden his share of the stolen cash. "For Sarah," he whispered, the words swallowed by the wind. Clara, Sarah's sister, refused to see him, her charity work now her solace. He made his choice, she told a local reporter in 1999, her voice firm but heavy with grief. Her organization, Sarah's Light, had funded treatment for dozens of families, a quiet legacy born from pain. Agent Lisa Chun, now 47 and a deputy director at the FBI Chicago office, kept the Polaroid on her desk, a reminder of persistence. The case had defined her career, earning her respect, but also sleepless nights. Over coffee at a Michigan Avenue cafe on September 15, 2000, 8:30 a.m., she confided to Agent Marcus Tate, "Sometimes I wonder if we got it all. That money's still out there, somewhere." Tate, now a seasoned investigator himself, nodded. Hayes took the fall, but Walsh and Carver walked too easy. Their arrests had closed the case, but the recovered $50,000 was a fraction of the $4.2 million stolen. Rumors persisted of hidden stashes, whispered about in Chicago's dive bars. The city itself carried the heist's shadow. Residents still swapped stories at corner delis or under the L tracks, the tale growing mythic. "I was there that day," an elderly vendor at Navy Pier claimed, pointing to the lake. "Saw that chopper vanish." Community forums buzzed with theories. Some called Hayes a tragic figure, others a traitor. Fundraisers for Sarah's Light became annual events, knitting Englewood tighter, but trust in institutions wavered. Banks doubled security. The National Guard tightened access to equipment. Chicago learned, but at a cost. Vincent Carver faded into obscurity, last seen in 1995 running a small airfield in rural Wisconsin. Daniel Walsh's shipping company folded in 1997, and he lived modestly in Milwaukee, dodging reporters. Neither spoke of the heist again, their silence louder than any confession. Imagine standing on Navy Pier today, the lake stretching endless before you. Somewhere beneath those waves, secrets might still hide. Cash, truths, or regrets. The heist wasn't just about money. It was about desperation, loyalty, and the choices that ripple through time. What would you have done in Hayes' shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments.